Good morning and welcome to the South Carolina Public Service Commission. It is Thursday, September 25th, and we are here today on docket number 2025-16 and docket 17E. We are here to reconvene the hearing, and first, before we go into that, present in the hearing room, we have Commissioners Belzer, Commissioner Brett, Commissioner Caston, Commissioner C. Williams, Commissioner Thomas, and I am Chair Powers. Vice Chair Williams is on military leave. Ms. Westerhill, if you would explain the docket and why we are here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the chairman mentioned, the hearing before you today is in dockets number 2025-16E and 2025-17E. The docket concerns the review and approval of the application filed by Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress related to their 2025 avoided cost proceedings as required and pursuant to Section 58-41-20 subsection A. This hearing is reconvened as noted by the clerk's office in a revised notice filed on May 27th, 2025, and also has referenced and stated by the chairman on August 11th, 2025, when this hearing was first convened. Mr. Chairman, upon inquiry of all and looking at all parties are present, and this matter is ready when you are.
Thank you very much. Now for appearances, who's here for the company?
Good morning, Chair Powers, Commissioners. I'm Nathan Haber on behalf of Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress. Joining me today is Sam Welburn, my co-counsel.
Welcome this morning.
Thank you.
And for Sasiba?
Chair Powers, members of the Commission, Richard Witt for Sasiba.
Welcome, Mr. Witt.
Thank you.
And who's here on behalf of Office of Regulatory Staff?
Good morning, Chair Powers, members of the Commission. Donna Rainey on behalf of ORS, and with me is Stig Rasmussen.
Good morning to you, too. All right. The purpose today, excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. This is John Burns. That's okay. I just wanted to let you know I was here. I don't think I'll be saying much today, but wanted you to know why this face was looming from your TV screen.
Well, you can say whatever you want this morning. Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Right,
I'm
you,
sorry I overlooked you. All right. We are here today to take the testimony of the avoided cost consultant expert who is Mr. Golding, and he is virtual.
Yes, sir.
And he is virtual. Mr. Golding, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I so affirm.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. You may proceed.
Thank you. If it's appropriate, may I introduce myself and then just summarize my report?
Yes, sir, please.
Thank you. So it's a pleasure to see all of you again, and I realize that there are some new faces as well. I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to have testified in both the 2021 and 2023 rounds of these avoided cost proceedings in a similar role. I'm the president of London Economics International, LLC, which is a U.S. company based in Boston, Massachusetts. I have over 30 years of experience in the energy sector. I've testified before regulators and judicial bodies in the US and Canada on a wide range of matters, including cost of capital, performance-based rate making, retail market design, market power, and procurement-related matters. I also serve as an adjunct associate professor at Columbia University, where I teach a course on electricity market design and regulatory economics. I also supervise graduate workshops. So I'll refer to my firm as LEI. LEI was retained by the Commission to serve as an independent expert in the 2025 avoided cost proceedings and to evaluate the avoided cost rates, methodologies, terms, calculations, and conditions proposed by Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress, together the companies. Following our detailed review and analysis, we filed our independent report in these dockets earlier this month on September 4th. Overall, LEI supports the proposed stipulation between the companies and the Office of Regulatory Staff, or ORS, which was filed on July 2nd. The stipulation adopts the avoided cost elements as set out in the company's initial application, and in some cases commits to working together to explore certain issues ahead of the next avoided cost proceeding in 2027. With regards to avoided energy costs, the companies propose higher avoided cost rates than those approved in the 2023 proceeding. As noted by company witness Glenn Snyder in his direct testimony, these increases are primarily driven by higher gas prices. Now, to verify these proposed rates, LEI deployed our proprietary electricity market production cost model dispatch, which is a dispatch model. It's known as PoolMod. It's been used for over 20 years in proceedings similar to this and to look at electricity market design and evolution, as well as the performance of specific assets. And we use that model to arrive at an independent estimate of avoided energy rates using a set of credible assumptions. These assumptions were generally consistent with those used by the companies. There were slight differences in the natural gas outlook, but not material. Despite these differences, we found that through this modeling exercise, the results that we came up with fell within the zone of reasonableness. We generally feel that a modeling exercise has a range of plausible outcomes. When we look back at modeling exercises performed by ourselves, performed by other sophisticated modelers, those vary from actual outcomes within a reasonable range. And so we've tended to say that if our results are within plus minus 10% of the results that the applicants come up with, that we feel that the outcome is reasonable. And that is indeed the case. As a result, LEI found that DEC and DEP's methodology and resulting proposed avoided energy rates are reasonable. Turning our attention to avoided capacity costs, the companies proposed significantly higher avoided capacity rates than those approved in the 2023 proceeding. This increase for DEC in particular is driven in part by the much earlier first avoidable capacity need, which emerges in 2025 in the current proceeding compared to 2032 in the prior proceeding. Now, looking more generally, there are a number of cost pressures in the economy that are also manifested in the increase in the rate for avoided capacity. These include significantly higher capital costs observed for building new peaking plants. And this reflects multiple external factors currently impacting the industry. These include supply chain constraints, which have extended turbine procurement timelines, as well as a significant influx of anticipated data centers, which have increased competition for scarce generation equipment. We conducted a comprehensive review of the working files employed by the companies, and were also able to independently verify key cost assumptions underlying the company's avoided capacity cost calculations. As a result of this analysis, LEI believes that the proposed avoided capacity rates are reasonable. In terms of the proposed solar integration services charges, or SISCs, companies propose a charge of $1.09 per megawatt hour for DEC and $1.62 per megawatt hour for DEP, which represent a 4% increase and a 28% decrease, respectively, relative to what was approved in the 2023 proceeding. As noted by Astrape in their updated SISC study on behalf of companies, changes in integration costs are driven by several factors, including the aforementioned higher gas prices, which put upward pressure on the SISCs, as well as the planned addition of flexible resources on the company's systems and incorporation of transactions from the Southeast Energy Exchange Market in the modeling, which put downward pressure on the SISCs. We find the SISC study methodology to be robust. It has been carefully reviewed by the Independent Technical Review Committee and incorporates updated assumptions to reflect recent market developments, such as SDEM. We also find the company's proposed SISCs to generally be in line with benchmarks that we reviewed, including recent ancillary services prices in PJM, as well as recent solar integration costs estimated by other utilities in the Southeast region. Finally, for the contract documents, namely the standard offer tariff, the PPA, and terms and conditions, the large QF tariff and PPA, as well as the notice of commitment to sell form, LEI finds that the changes proposed by the companies are limited and relatively minor. Therefore, we believe the contract documents continue to be commercially reasonable. In the LEI independent report, we also opine on the recommendations made by ORS witness Zachary Ming, which the companies have agreed to consider in advance of cost proceeding in 2027. Mr. Ming's recommendations include considering incorporation of a
Mr.
Yes.
Golden, you're breaking up, and court reporter, maybe we can tell how far back we need to go. Hold on just a second.
The sentence that you mentioned, Zachary Ming's name, the witness.
Sure. Let me try and go a little bit more slowly, and if there are any more inaudible parts, I can shift to using headphones. So, in the LEI independent report, we also opine on the recommendations made by ORS witness Zachary Ming, which the companies have agreed to consider in advance of the next avoided cost proceeding in 2027. Mr. Ming's recommendations include considering incorporation of a coincidence factor, granular time of use blocks, and or a fixed capacity payment with a performance collar. Mr. Ming argues that these changes would increase the precision and accuracy of the company's avoided cost methodology. LEI disagrees with these assertions, while noting that some of these recommendations may be academically valid. We have a concern that the parties not fall victim to fallacies of misplaced precision. Any changes to the company's avoided cost methodology need to be considered in the context of rate setting principles, including balancing simplicity, stability and consistency, and providing clear price signals to qualified facilities or QFs.
Mr.
Mr.
Golding,
Ming also references, yes.
we're having another problem. Hang on one second. I can't read lips.
Melissa, what's the problem?
Mr. Chairman, if it helps, I didn't have any breakup from my end of the testimony. So if that helps diagnose what's going on, it was clear over here.
They're losing words on the video.
We're losing words on our video, even though I haven't detected a problem up here. Let's take about a 5-minute break and see if we can get this straight. We're being and I would suggest we switch to your headphones. We are back on the record in case number 2025-16E and 2025-17E. All commissioners are in the hearing room with the exception of Vice Chair Williams, who is on military leave. Mr. Goulding, I apologize for any technical problems we're having on our end, and would ask you if you would please pick back up, maybe back up a little bit as to where you were and continue with your presentation. Thank you.
Sure. Can you all hear me
Perfectly.
now?
Perfect. Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you. So in the LEI independent report, we also opine on the recommendations made by ORS witness Zachary Ming, which the companies have agreed to consider in advance of the next avoided cost proceeding in 2027. Mr. Ming's recommendations include considering incorporation of a coincidence factor, granular time of use blocks, and/or a fixed capacity payment with a performance collar. Mr. Ming argues that these changes would increase the precision and accuracy of the company's methodology. LEI notes that it is important to avoid falling victim to fallacies of misplaced precision. Furthermore, it's important to balance rate-setting principles, including simplicity, stability, and consistency, and providing clear price signals to qualifying facilities, or QFs. Therefore, while LEI appreciates Mr. Ming's thorough and thoughtful analysis, LEI believes that some of these recommendations may not be suitable when taking into account some of the other rate-making principles that need to be considered. This concludes my summary of the LEI independent report. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. We'll begin with Duke, Mr. Welborn, and Mr. Haber. Either one of you have questions?
No questions from the company. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Mr. Witt or Mr. Burns, any questions?
No questions from CC, but Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. ORS, any questions?
No questions from ORS.
All right. Commissioner questions?
Chair
Commissioner
Powers,
Caston.
just one thing relative to these reports that LEI has. I guess I'd be asking you, Mr. Goulding, are we going to introduce those into the record?
Mr. Golding?
Yes, it's my understanding that those. Yes, it's my understanding those are introduced to the record. I believe that we have.
All right. Is there any objection from the company?
No objection, Chair Powers.
Mr. Witt, Mr. Burns, any objection?
No question.
No objection from CC.
All right. ORS?
No objections.
All right. This report of the avoided cost consultant will be placed into the record as exhibit number 6. All right. Now, Duke,
Chair Powers,
Commissioner Williams.
thank you. Mr. Goulding, good to see you. I have 2 questions for you. One was just, I think this might be the first avoided cost report that has dealt with data centers. And I know you referenced it overall in your summary, but my general question is just, could you describe for this layperson what the impact of data centers are overall on avoided cost?
So over the short term, not much. What I would say over the long run is that the data centers change the load profile and the amount of load, and that does a few things. First, it accelerates need for new generation. And we've seen a little bit of that in this application. And secondly, because it is bringing in more load, it also, until newer generation is brought online to support it, may mean that you are relying on higher cost resources until that period of time when the new load, when the new supply comes online. So when we think about the avoided cost proceeding, in particular, it affects the timing that new capacity is needed. So it pulls that forward. And it also impacts potentially the timing of when costs increase. I apologize if that's not clear, and I'm happy to elaborate.
No, that was perfect. I really appreciated the overview, and it made sense to me. So no apology needed. My other question had to do with SEAM, because the timing of its engagement is certainly for this whole period, and not just for part of a period. So we've got a better understanding of its impact, and you talked about it as well. But again, another big picture question: what is SEAM's overall impact on solar integration cost on the CISC?
Sure. And I thought it was interesting that Estrape included consideration of SEAM in their analysis. I think the main question when you're calculating the SISC is, are you able to rely on external resources for balancing unexpected drops in production or not? And theoretically, you would expect to be able to, depending on transmission constraints, rely on resources that are available, not serving other needs, and have transmission connections to perform that balancing. In other words, it gives you access to, let's say, peaking plants that aren't fully utilized someplace off the system. Now, at the moment, SEAM is a tiny component of the overall market, but the Estrape felt, and I agree with them, that it is appropriate to consider that there are certain circumstances in which it may play some role in providing additional resources that can balance unexpected drops in solar output. So theoretically, I have no issue with that. And the practicality has to do with how robust the transmission system is.
Again, thank you very much. Appreciate the overview and the context.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams.
Chair
Mr. Caston.
Just to follow up, if I may, on, I guess, question Commissioner Williams asked relative to data centers and avoided cost. As I think about that, whether it's avoided centers or, data centers, as I understand it, those type facilities would be 24/7, and relative to that generation capacity or whatever, would that be more oriented toward a base load demand, a constant demand over a period of time, rather than ramp up, ramp down? Would that make a difference?
I think that you raise an interesting point, because generally the starting assumption is that these are base load and that they run at a fairly constant rate 24/7. Now, some of the more interesting things that are happening with regards to data centers is in looking at, do they have the ability to back down load under certain circumstances? Could they become dispatchable loads, whereby the owners of the data centers start shifting various processing tasks across geographies when the grid is under stress in one particular jurisdiction. And I think we're not there yet, but I think that's where the industry is potentially going. And you can do that in a couple of ways. One is shifting load to other data centers when requested. The other is to lean on backup generation that would be available on site when needed by the system. So there are potentially ways to handle data center integration that provide for greater flexibility so that you don't have to build out your peak as much as you otherwise would. But all of the implications need to be considered. I mean, we're looking now at concerns about concentration of data centers when they all drop load simultaneously. What does that do to the stability of the grid? Now, if we sort of extend this out a little bit and think about, well, what does that mean for avoided costs? I think it does mean that when we look at the load forecasts that are being used to determine which resources are effectively substitutes, like, you know, what are we substituting for and when, I think we need to at least understand the extent to which any of the new load that's coming online is assumed to be at least moderately, I use the term dispatchable loosely. The arrangements may differ across systems and with individual customers. But as applicants are describing their demand forecast, it's important that they be explicit about what the assumptions are for large loads, how dispatchable they might be, and how that is reflected in a dispatch model.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Caston. Commissioner Brett.
Mr. Golding, I just have a quick comment and really an observation to share some information with you about South Carolina and, relative to data centers that Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Caston were asking about, and you were helping with them. We're doing things a little bit differently here in South Carolina, and we've got at least one data center in my home county, which is generating their power themselves through natural gas. And a couple other data centers are looking to come to South Carolina, are also doing that, realizing what's on the grid. But also, I think some of these sites and some of these companies are looking at small modular reactors and powering their own data centers and then selling back to the grid. But I think you're right, too. I think we're going to see a lot of the data centers across the country going to smaller and being able to move resources from facility to facility. So just wanted to share that and see if you agree, if you've heard that.
Yes, I think that's a very interesting trend, and it is helpful. I think what is challenging from the utilities perspective is making sure that you understand the way in which that facility interacts with the grid. And so if you say, okay, we're building this, it's going to have, I'm just making numbers up here, it's going to have a 500 megawatt combined cycle plant on the premises that serves the data center, and the grid is going to be used only when available. That then would suggest that the utility doesn't need to account for that resource in its load forecasting, when it's forecasting its peak. And I think that's really very helpful for protecting ratepayers, for following the principles of cost causation and so forth. I think the challenge would be if that data center built a 500 megawatt unit and then had a 500 megawatt connection to the grid that would be activated instantaneously if the CCGT, the combined cycle gas turbine, tripped off for any reason. Then the utility would have to include that 500 megawatts in its future peak load estimates. So I think what's happening in South Carolina, based on what you've described, I think is very consistent with people sometimes call it the bring your own power approach. But I think it's consistent with protecting ratepayers, and also from the standpoint of avoided costs in moderating future peak load needs for the utility.
Thank you. And what the one in Spartanburg's doing, they got backup generators for their backup generator for their generator. So they don't have to rely on the utility to provide them the power. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Britt. Any further commissioner questions? All right. Mr. Golding, thank you very much. Is anything from any party?
Nothing.
All right. We will then be adjourned. Thank you.